Hey everybody, Stacks here. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today I'm checking out Giant Size Xmen Magneto #1 by Jonathan Hickman. Raymond Perez is your artist, and David Carril is your color artist. So this is the third Dawn of X Giant Size X-Men book, and the first one, Giant Size Jean Grey, Emma Frost, was actually pretty decent. It was a silent issue, but I mean, it actually had some weight to it, had a big reveal at the end. It was actually a pretty good book. And the art in it was beautiful. The second one, the Nightcrawler one, felt like it was more of a New Mutants book. It did not feel like it focused on Nightcrawler at all. He seemed kind of like a guest star in his own Giant Size X-Men book. So let's see how this Magneto one turns out. A couple things before we get started. I am doing this after oral surgery, so I'm probably going to be lisping all over the place, and I'm going to try to keep my volume up, but talking isn't the easiest thing to do right now, but I'm going to grit through it because I'm a tough YouTuber. I don't know. It also hurts to laugh. Second, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and of course, like and leave a comment down below and tell me what your impressions of this book were. Alright, enough with the intro though. Let's go ahead and get into the book. The book starts with Magneto pulling up on this giant cargo ship, and he takes it off to the Faroe Islands, and I had to actually go and say, hey, where is this at? And apparently it's like if you drew a triangle between Great Britain, Norway, and Iceland, if you drew a triangle, it'd be right in the middle of that whole area there. Anyways, Magneto's just standing there on this cliff overlooking the ocean when this guy approaches him and says, hey, we don't usually get a whole lot of visitors, and if they do, usually they're photographer types that are just trying to get that one breathtaking picture, but you don't seem like the photographer type. Well, as the conversation evolves, Magneto kind of cuts to the chase and says, you know, islands have been an interest of mine for quite some time. I've been collecting them for years. And I was recently asked to put my expertise into action and procure an island for a colleague of mine. Of course, there were some prerequisites for the island that this island meets all of those, so here I am, money in hand. Well, this gentleman here finally speaks up and says, look, sorry, but you're talking to the wrong guy. And second, I can get a hold of the owner. It may take a while, but he's the eccentric type, and I don't know what he's going to say. Well, Magneto admits to knowing the guy already and says, well, he does have something of a reputation, doesn't he? And he's like, oh, yeah, so you want me to go ahead and let him know there's an interested buyer? And Magneto very calmly just says, yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. From there, we jump back to Krakoa and a meeting between Eric and Emma. And unfortunately, what happens next is 4 pages for her to ask a question of, hey, I need you to get me an island. All right, so after that 4 pages, we jump back to now, where Magneto is just sitting here. It's actually starting to snow. It's cold out. And this gentleman comes up and just offers him something to warm him as he's sitting by the fire. Well, finally, after this long wait, who should show up but Namor? Now, as far as Namor goes, and House of X, Powers of X, and Dawn of X, when last time we seen him was back in Powers of X #5, when Charles Xavier was inviting everyone to Krakoa. And when he invited Namor to Krakoa, Namor actually came up and said, look, do I look like, I mean, it's nice of you to invite me, don't get me wrong, but you don't believe this yet. When you actually believe that you're superiors to humans, then come and ask me. Come and ask me when you really mean it. And we haven't heard of him since, other than what was going on in Invaders, which was a really cool storyline involving Professor X and the fallout of what he did to Namor as far as splitting his head and having this digging in his subconscious. But I probably need to do a video on that because that was a good storyline by Chip Zdarsky. But jumping back to this, Namor kind of chastises Magneto a little bit because he's like, look, I gave the caretaker of the island Gresh to contact me if he ever needed my assistance, not just because. Yet here I am, Prince of the Ocean, King of Atlantis, answering the summons of there's a stranger in our strange land, only to find you, just a mutant, less special each and every day, I think. And Magneto just kind of, well, you kept me waiting. And he says, Namor, I'm a king. You were expecting it to be the other way? Most would be thankful for this audience. Either way, I suggest you use it, and quickly. I have matters of dark water to deal with. Well, when they get down to business, and Magneto makes his proposal that, look, it's the White Queen. She wants to lease your island. Namor doesn't even bat an eye. He's like, Emma? Say no more. I understand. And Magneto's kind of, well, we can come to terms then? And Namor, seeing an opportunity, says, well, it depends. Do you feel like a swim? And Magneto reaches out, shakes hands, and says, I could take a dip. And it just so happens that Namor is in need of somebody who could open a giant metal door. See, he had sent an Atlantean exploratory team deep into this part of the trench and just tracking some seismic activity that they noticed. And, well, they didn't return. Well, when finally presented with this giant door, Namor asks Magneto if he can open it. He said, well, it's brass, tin, iron, composite. Yes, but the real question is, should I? Well, Namor doesn't even bat an eye, and he says, yeah, go for it. There's only one way to know for sure. So Magneto snaps this thing open. And when he does, a giant Kraken comes out and just starts grabbing and slinging and breaking everything. And Namor just gets to fighting, throws the trident and yelling, Kraken. It's always a Kraken. Well, this thing manages to scoop up both Magneto and Namor, and as Namor's just lacing into it, saying, unhand me, beast. Do you not see I am Namor, Prince of the Ocean, King of the... Gulp. The thing just snaps down, eats them both. Well, inside the belly of the beast, they manage to see a light, and they, of course, swim down towards it. And when they arrive, they're presented with these these sirens, basically. And they interrogate him, say, well, man of the sea, man of the earth, what seek you strangers? And they say, look, I lost a group of explorers, scientists in these deep waters. I'm trying to find them. Well, one of these sirens just says, their bones are around here somewhere, scattered with the millennia of others. And yours will be too, if you do as they did and choose incorrectly. And that's when she tells him, see the spiral, see the stone. Choose one and live, choose the other and die. There is only the choice, and only in choosing correctly can you find your way back to shallow waters. And Namor doesn't even hesitate, of course. He swims up, grabs the Ohari, I can't even say that, Ohari, the spiral shell, and he just looks into it, smiles, and then the thing jams its tentacles down its throat like a freaking face hugger. Magneto screams, Namor! And she stops him real quick and says, you can save him if you wish, simply make a better choice. And Magneto comes up and says, it seems so obvious. The way you offer one thing or another, yes. And yet, I see 3 pillars behind you. So, I do not choose the stone. I choose the other. And whatever he did with this, it freaks them out. They turn to skulls and start screaming no, and calling him a trickster, a fraud, and a liar, and a thief. And asking, do you know what you've done? Do you care at all what this does? And Magneto responds, no, I do not. And then, afterwards, as Namor and Magneto are standing there, Magneto asks him, so about the island, and Namor tells him, fair is fair. And as Magneto's standing on this cliff again, looking out at this cargo ship and looking at this key that he puts in his pocket, he raises the ship up and starts constructing this new fortress for Emma Frost. And as he molds it and manipulates it and builds it and puts it into place, his last step is to put a Krakoan gateway right at the base of it, and that's it. He ends up with this really cool looking beachside tower that's, with the sentinel head in it and everything, and it looks really insanely cool. And once it's built, he brings Emma through and shows it to her, and that's it. That's really the we find out that Namor had won this in a poker. He won the island in a poker game back at the end of the Second World War, and that's really it for the book. Now, as far as my review for this book, I will say that the Giant Size X-Men title continues to be underwhelming. The Emma Frost Jean Grey book was good because it capitalized on, I think it was X-Men number 2 or 3, where you had Storm get blasted by the Children of the Vault. So, that was an interesting take, but we still haven't followed up on that. This one just seems like it's going to be one of those Easter eggs that's laid out there that is quickly explained away in 2 lines of dialogue. And it's going to be a nice little Easter egg for those that have read it, but it's not going to be necessary. I think my biggest disappointment here is exactly what my biggest disappointment with the Nightcrawler book was, is that this could have been any generic X-Men doing this adventure and getting this key. The Nightcrawler, giant-sized Nightcrawler book was a very disappointing book because Nightcrawler was a guest star in that. It was like, oh yeah, and Nightcrawler's here. It doesn't delve into the character. If it's going to be a giant-sized Magneto, giant-sized Nightcrawler, whatever it is, I really wanted to focus on developing that character and us understanding how this Dawn of X, how the House of X, Powers of X, all these events that are going on, how it's affecting the character. I mean, I feel like definitely with Nightcrawler, that was a big miss because, I mean, you had the, you just came off the issue with him discussing setting up this mutant religion, and they did nothing with it. Instead, it was them going to the old house, and it just was frustrating. Likewise, you have Magneto, who's taken this kind of number 2 role behind Professor X, and he still kind of has that old mentality, and it's just there's so much, should be so much inner dialogue and turmoil, and what he's compromising on and what he's willing to do going forward, and how this all, they see it playing out, and with Moira, and none of that's touched. I'd say the Raymond Perez art in this was serviceable. I don't think it blew me out of the water, especially some of the shots with Namor. I just didn't like the way he depicted him, and some of the profile shots I thought were pretty bad. But overall, I definitely liked his drawing of the structure that Magneto ended up building, the new fortress or whatever. I thought that was really cool, but overall, I'd say it was serviceable. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. If you're interested in winning a copy of this book, so here's the deal. I have an extra copy, and I would like to hear your guys' theory on what this key is. It may be something that already exists in the Marvel Universe, and I'm just not aware of it, or I don't remember it. So tell me your theories down in the comments below. I will pick the best theory, and I will reach out to you after I've announced a winner and get your information and send you a free copy of this book. Just a really simple way of me saying thank you to all my subscribers out there. I appreciate y'all taking the time to watch these videos, leaving likes, comments, all that stuff. You guys really make this a lot of fun, so appreciate you. Anyways, that's all I got, guys. I hope you guys are having a good week, and just stay safe out there. That's all I got. Real Comic Stacks out.